There's two halves to the equation in any classroom. What the students are doing, what the teacher is doing. And both are essential for the learning to occur as we want it. And one half of the equation is how do you get teachers to see the learning through the eyes of the students? Now, the first thing that requires is for you to stop and listen to them. And one of my problems in a lot of schools is teacher talk. And hey, I'm an academic, we talk even more. How do you stop and listen to the learning? And so that's the theme about the first half. There are lots of ways you can listen. You can do it through assessment, but you can do it by even listening to student questions, which I think is a very underestimated part of what listening is about. You can stop and learn it by looking at what students are doing. You can stop and learning it in terms of understanding about their progress. So there are lots of ways you can listen. The other half of the equation, like, we're very good in education at jargon, metacognition. Now, when I say that to groups of people, you can see their eyes glaze over and say, oh, here we go again. It's an incredibly powerful jargon word, and I actually struggle to know what it means as a jargon word. To me, it's simple. When students become their own teachers, when you're your own teacher, you know how to self-regulate, you know how to self-monitor, you know how to try different strategies. You know when things are not working, you know error detection. Like the phrase we often use in schools is lifelong learning. Now, I find it a vacuous notion. Not because it's not important, but the notion doesn't mean anything to me. What we want most of all of our students, by the time they leave us, is to be their own teachers, to know when they don't know, so they can go and seek help. 5-year-olds can do it. A lot of 15-year-olds lose it. So that's where the two halves come together, is how can you get students to take more responsibility for their own learning? How can they go, particularly in this age where there are so many more resources through technology, for them to use other resources. I'm worried that they're using them at the moment in very, very simplistic surface ways. How do we teach them to be better learners? So that's where the two parts come to, and that's trying to come up with the story that was underlying the data. Those two phrases seem to sum it up. The first and most important thing is how we think as the adults in this business. Like, I've long ago given up the notion of talking about teaching. I'm not really interested in talking about teaching anymore. Not because it's not important, but it's not what the right question is. I can see teachers who use a particular method, and other teachers use the same method. The impact is dramatic. And so what concerns me is, if I had to sum it up, know thy impact. How can I, as the adult in the room, know the impact I'm having on you, on all the other people in the room? And about what? And to what level am I acceptable to me that I'm having the kind of impact I'm having? If you go into a classroom with that mindset, that my job is to know my impact, everything else follows for me. About 1 minute a month, teachers talk to each other about teaching. That's what I want to change more than anything else. How can you have a conversation about what learning looks like, what teaching looks like, what the impact of my teaching looks like when I'm talking to you, my colleague? We have so many structures in schools that mitigates against that. We have a lot of staff meetings where we talk about other stuff, what we see, other methods of teaching. But we're not very good at talking about the impact that we're having. That's what I want to talk about when I'm talking about the learner as the teacher, so that the teacher as a learner, is how can we have a conversation about what I'm doing well, and hey, if I'm going to learn, what I'm not doing so well, who I'm doing well with. And like, it's music to my ears when I go into staff rooms and I hear teachers saying, look, I'm having troubles with this kid. What other strategies do you think I could know or try that would make a difference? And then you get into a diagnosis. What's going on here? And that to me is the power of the teacher as the learner. And again, the schools I work with, I can hear excellent discussions about that, which is quite different from hearing about another teaching method, another curriculum innovation. All those things are necessary, but they're not the key of what it means to me as the teacher, as a learner. It's like everything we do in education. If you already know it, why are you there? We're only in this business about what we don't know.